Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Clever Connections podcast. I'm your host, Alana, and today my guest here is Anita. But before we get started, I do want to say thank you to Si Senor Restaurant for sponsoring us by allowing us to film in their space, and to my other sponsor, Besame Cosmetics, making authentic vintage-style cosmetics, which I'm wearing today. The lipstick is, I believe, 1942. They mix their colors based on the color palettes of those particular years, and it's really awesome. You can save 25% at Besame Cosmetics using my code ALANNA, ALANNA, when you check out. So anyway, let's get started anyway. Hi, Anita. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Tired.
Good.
Always.
Tired?
Yeah. You would think after the holidays and having a little bit more rest, you'd be less tired, but I feel more tired.
Yeah, did you do anything special for the holidays?
No, I stayed home, I slept, and then I went dancing. So how were your holidays?
I was in Colorado with family.
Oh, nice.
It was super cold, but it was nice.
Was it below zero?
Yes.
Okay, so...
Minus 11, we had a bit of that cold
Was
front.
that the wind chill, or was that the actual...
No, that was the actual temp.
I don't know, that might have been colder than here.
Wow.
Did you go skiing?
I didn't. Just family time.
Nice.
It was good.
Yeah, I don't ski. I went once, and nobody really told me how to stop properly. That was
hard to learn. When did you try learning?
Oh gosh, it was probably like 6-7 years ago. I don't remember exactly. And I have asthma, which is exercise and cold induced. So I'm going downhill. Man. I don't know how to stop. And in the middle of this, I'm like having an asthma attack. I finally get to the bottom of the hill, and somehow I managed not to crash into anything. And I'm like, this wasn't fun at all. And whatever ski suit they gave me they let me borrow somebody's ski suit. It smelled like vomit.
Ew.
And so I'm like,
ski suit.
Yeah, it was like a family member's or something. Yeah, it was my boyfriend at the time. And then I'm like, I think I'm just going to sit in the lodge, drink some hot cocoa, and not do that again. You come back when you come back. I'm like, I'm not going down the hill when nobody's teaching me how to stop.
It's hard.
Was
this in Ohio?
Yes. It was I think it was Brandywine
really
or... Yeah. What, Boston Mills, one of those.
Yeah.
It was one of those. It would have, I don't know, it was really awkward, and it was warm, so the snow wasn't right either, is what they were saying.
Snow?
I don't know. Might have been like kind of melting off. So that was my one and only experience skiing.
Yeah.
So you are a professional matchmaker.
I am.
All I can think of is Fiddler on the Roof, matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match.
Nice. Yeah, I've not actually seen Fiddler on the Roof. I have seen Hitch.
Okay.
That was good. But yeah, it's a real thing.
Yeah, until I met you, I didn't even know it was a real job anymore. I could, maybe back in the 80s or something when you didn't have internet, because everyone's using online dating. But as someone who's used online dating, I've found it, I felt like I'm fresh meat in a Shark Tank.
Yeah, online dating is kind of like that. That's why a lot of the clients come to us, because they're sick of just the apps and kind of the mixed intentions. So by the time they come to us, it's sometimes last resort. Like they just want to be matched with someone and be with someone who has intentions, like clear intentions on having like a real relationship.
Right. I can definitely see that. Having experienced the people who are like, oh yeah, I'm looking for a relation. Well, no, not really. Or you look at somebody's profile and they say they're single, and yet they've got this selfie and you can see the wedding ring on their finger. I'm like, dude, I don't care if this is an older photo that you had taken before you were divorced, if that's the case. No.
Or people just disappear.
Oh yeah, the ghosting.
Yeah,
the ghosting.
That's something too.
But you're probably better off if someone ghosted you. It's probably a good reason.
Yeah, we always say if it happens as matchmakers too, so we can be about to set up a date, and then the person we're setting up with just doesn't reply to us anymore, and we always tell our clients, maybe you dodged a bullet here. We're kind of a ghost filter. ghost or filter for them. So
that's, probably they weren't, obviously, the worst case or best case scenario, they weren't ready for it. And if they're not ready for it, all they're going to do, if they do go out with someone not ready, they're just going to hurt someone by breaking their heart.
Right.
So, yeah, that makes sense. How did you get into this?
Well, like you, I didn't know it was an actual real thing either. So at the time, I had another job. I was doing intensive case management with immigrants and refugees, and I took this on as a side hustle. But the way I found it, it was actually through a Facebook post one of my friends put on. We're in a life coaching alumni website, or we were in a life coaching alumni group, and she posted it on Facebook, and it was the job of matchmaker. And I read the description, and it was all about everything I'm into. So it's about being a good communicator, a good listener, talking to people from all over the U.S., love, relationships. So at the time I was following like a lot of different dating coaches, and all my life I've been interested in psychology. So this just kind of seemed like the perfect fit.
Yeah.
You know, for a lot of my personal experiences. But so yeah, it started as a side hustle. I applied, got the job, and I just loved it from the get-go, because you're just having, I mean, like what you're doing now, you're having real conversations with people, but about things that they most value. Like I've never been good at small talk, but I love just having real conversations.
Yes.
And so you're talking about, you know, things that are really vulnerable to people's lives and their hearts. So you're talking about, you know, their values, who their ideal person is, to describe that person without limits, just connecting them to themselves and what they desire in relationships. So it's for me, it's very meaningful work. And yeah, it's great having those conversations with people and just getting to the heart of like who they are and what they desire.
That's nice too, because like there are certain people that people feel comfortable opening up to as well, and I felt completely comfortable when I first met you, talking to you about whatever. It didn't, you know, some people you feel intimidated. It's like, I don't really know what to say right now. Weather's terrible, isn't it? And then it's like, because what else do you say in Ohio? But it's, you know, you also have like that skill as a person, so that you are a comfortable person to be around too. I don't think anyone or just anyone can do your job. Even if they have like all the other skills you have, there's still something about you yourself.
Thank you.
Just telling the truth.
Well, I love it. I absolutely love every part of the process. So first, I receive clients from the company, so it's Talkify. So they give me clients, which is wonderful. And then I screen the clients. So I get to know them like you're getting to know me, and I'm getting to know you right now, like an hour kind of Zoom call. And then we have a database of candidates for them. So I'm looking through dating profiles all the time. And if there's someone who's a match to their values and priorities and their picture, we're values-based matchmaking, but we also, of course, we want it to be a good physical match as well. Right. So we do the best that we can with that. But it's really nice. So you're constantly talking to people, and then we also curate the dates. So if it is a match, we arrange the date, choose the location. It's all over the U.S. So I used to travel a lot in my past as well. So it kind of, you're doing research on restaurants and trying to make like a really good experience for people.
That's nice too.
And then you get feedback. So it's always, when I first started, it was especially exciting because every weekend when the dates are going out, you're curious if your match, you're curious about how it's going.
Right. It's like when you've made a friend, you want to know how their date's going, because by this time you really know this person. It's like, oh, I'm hoping it's working out for them because I really like both these people.
Yeah. And it's a job where you get to kind of act upon your hunches. So it's really great. You can have a sense of intuition about people, and then you kind of see if that intuition is really not accurate, but you get to kind of test it out a little bit, which I really like that part of the job.
That's really cool. So like when people are meeting, are they literally maybe from completely opposite ends of the country, or do you try? Wow, so like they travel to meet, or do you try to do like a Zoom?
Zoom usually. So I get clients mostly in the East Coast time zone, sometimes in other places too. But then if they're open to people outside of the East Coast, then you could potentially match someone from Boston, someone in California. Some people fly to each other, but usually the first date in a long distance match is like a Zoom date, just to see if it's, if it's worth flying. It's hard if it's blind. It's blind dating.
Yes, you don't want to blind date a fly and then the person doesn't show up. And
that happens. People stand each other up sometimes.
So you have to have a plan B and like, okay, well, if they don't show up, these are all the tourist attractions in the city, and I'm going to just make a night of it.
Oh, you should always have a plan B. I mean, I encourage people to enjoy themselves and to also date outside of Talkify. Right. Because basically to make the most of your experiences, because some people, you could show up at a restaurant, get stood up, and it could be the end of the world. Or you could show up, get a drink, relax, and get to know the people around you.
Right.
So a lot of my job is also helping people kind of maximize just
their
experiences in general.
Not focus on the negative part. Okay, yeah, it sucks if you get stood up, but you can still be like, well, their loss.
Yeah.
I'm going to get myself a martini.
Right, and some people respond that way, and people who respond more like that generally enjoy the experience more.
Right, and I think for any kind of dating, if you have that, I think maybe it's different if you've met someone, you've been liking them for a really, really, really long time. Why did you wait that long to tell somebody you liked them? But okay, I digress. Then it might hurt more, but if we're talking about people you haven't met, they're strangers, you can't really have feelings for them yet. So there's nothing to hurt except for your pride.
Yeah. There's no loss. We try to make it just enjoy the date, enjoy getting to know another human. Some people put a whole lot of expectation on it. Some people get a lot of social anxiety around it. So sometimes, depending on where people are at, we're working with them where they are. So sometimes, we use a lot of coaching as well. So the company does hire a lot of life coaches because we use that so much in our work.
So you might be teaching people how to communicate better, so that express themselves.
Confidence building. Some people just have anxieties about what to wear, and they show you different outfits, send you pictures, and you're helping them with that. Others, everyone, I guess, has what I call it kind of a dating liability. People who come to us are between the ages of mostly between 30 and 65, I would say. But we have some outliers. We have some in their 20s, some in their 70s. But everyone has something that makes them matchable and maybe more unmatchable.
Depending on who it is. You might, if you're I don't know, really, really tall woman. Not saying that, tall women shouldn't date short men, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But she may not, a 6-foot woman may not want to date a 5-foot man. It might make them feel, or the 5-foot man may not want to date a 6-foot woman. So I can see where you have to still take into consideration physical attributes. You do. Because it's you want to make sure that the people are comfortable, and ask those kinds of questions. Are you comfortable dating somebody who's taller or shorter, or that kind of thing? Blonde hair or brown hair. Some people are very particular. Sometimes it's really about assessing the value behind the thing that seems superficial. So of course, a lot of women naturally want a taller guy. That's just a common thing, but what women really want often is to feel protected or to feel safe with someone. So sometimes, people give me because it's blind and they're entrusting things to me, they kind of give me their highest standard of what they're looking for, which I get. So maybe in daily life, they'd go to a bar and they'd meet someone who was
just for the sake of this conversation, a couple inches shorter. But if they're asking a matchmaker to find it, they're going to give me
a couple inches taller,
just because that's a safe zone for them.
Right.
But a lot of what I do is try to get them to be open to someone, just more people in general, than they otherwise think they might be, because oftentimes it's really about something else. Like right now, a big thing is around politics. Like that's it's a bigger thing than religion these days. So
it can get very serious and hairy.
It can, and people will completely discount someone based on someone they voted for, which I get that, because
I get that.
It's tough, but then if you dig behind the values more.
I interestingly had a conversation like that earlier, and we came to the conclusion that I try not to be mean to people. I don't like it. But I also knew where they were coming from, because their goal was they wanted to protect children. They just had a different way of going about it than I did. But the end goal was that we care about kids. And, when we talked to each other, we were, I was able to get this person to see my viewpoint, and I saw their viewpoint, and there was no issues. Like, we didn't have, I think, problem with politics in general is they try to pit each other against each other, saying, oh, they're going around the actual issue here instead of looking at the heart of the matter. Yes, we both care about this, but we just have different ideas of how we go and fix it. And these are not necessarily bad ideas or even conflicting ideas sometimes, but they make it us versus them, and I don't like that. It divides people instead of what we need to be doing is looking at who the person is. Now, like, just because you voted for this person doesn't mean you're a communist, and just because you voted for this person doesn't mean you're a Nazi, It just, it isn't. It's not the narrative that it isn't necessarily the real story. So
that's really insightful. We're trying to kind of relay that message to clients too. Now, you're always working with people's level of awareness. So if people are really insistent on things like, okay, absolutely nobody who voted for this candidate.
Right.
We want to honor people's strongest deal breakers.
Right.
But sometimes, if I'm looking through candidates in the database and I meet someone who's everything else that they want, then I try to stretch them a little bit and just be like, what is this really about with this candidate? Oh, you don't want to be with someone who's a womanizer. You don't want to be with some, then I can tell you that this person I screened is a gentleman and they're not that. So are you open to meeting this person and giving it a shot, despite the fact that you have different politics? So.
And you never know, like, this person may have been voting based on because they thought that this was best for safety and financial things and stuff. It has nothing to do with, like, that this, even though, like, you see, your point of view is you don't see some of the other things, but you see this person as having said some really bad things about other people. But that doesn't mean that this person's a bad person because he doesn't necessarily agree with that part of things. It gets hard. Who do you vote for? I don't like the person I voted for. I actually don't like anyone, to be honest. I refused to join a political party when I became an American citizen. It's like, you know what? I don't want to be chained to something. I want to vote my conscience always, and not have to always feel like I have to go along party lines, if that makes sense. So, but I guess you'd probably call me a moderate.
I find that most people that I screen they just don't want someone too extreme in either direction.
Exactly.
That's where most people fall.
But at the end of the day, like, usually they have to choose one of those people, and it doesn't mean that necessarily that because they voted for this person, you voted for the other, that you won't be a match. Because maybe you actually have the same ideas and ideals. It was just like, well, let's flip a coin and see which one lands, because I'm not really sure which one's worse.
Yeah, and ultimately you want to feel like a good, energetic match with someone.
Right.
So a lot of these little details aren't as important when you feel safe and you feel good with someone. Like, those things don't take as much weight.
Right, especially if you realize, hey, maybe we do have the same goals of making sure that, kids are protected and that, people have their rights and stuff like that. And maybe if those are all like matches, then you actually do agree, even if you voted differently. And so you can't just necessarily base it off of one thing. You actually have to have that conversation and see if maybe we think alike. Or maybe it's just a very slight difference that's not as big as the difference as I initially thought.
It's kind of where trust comes in with the matchmaker too. So I try to honor people's preferences and priorities as much as possible, especially in the beginning. And then I tell them, through the course of this journey, we need to flex some preferences. I'll let you know what areas would, give us more options.
Right.
And so, something like height, what we talked about earlier, that's an area that could, usually we can flex that a little bit.
I mean, my preference is for taller guys, obviously, but I have gone out with guys who are shorter than me. I've actually had longer relationships with guys who are shorter than me.
Interesting.
But it's not
always about those things.
I give people a chance based on their personality and overall. And I've given people chances when I shouldn't have, but I think we've all done that.
Yeah.
So
So you're very open. It sounds like you're
I think I'm more open.
That's great.
But everyone's experience in life is different, so what they're open to in life is different, and you as a matchmaker can make those assessments versus a computer who has no real idea. So,
well, and I'm meeting people on video. That's the difference. Is there is that human addition to the algorithm, but just being able to see, you can pick up on red flags with people pretty quickly. You don't see how someone walks into a room, and that's a bit challenging because I feel like that's actually a really helpful indicator for people. Like just energetically in terms of like confidence, where someone's at, body language says a lot.
And how they treat other people.
And how they treat other people, which is why it's great. We do most of our dates at a restaurant, so you get to see how people treat servers. You're sharing an experience, you're sharing food, and then there's kind of a set period of time. So it's not like you're just going into the forest together for an unknown amount of time with a stranger. Like I feel like actually the dinner date or happy hour or something like this is a good chance to like have a safe space to meet and have a genuine conversation, like you're looking people in the eye.
So do they check in with you later on, say, hey, this date's going really well, we actually want to extend it?
So my job is to just, so they'll buy a package with a certain number of matches.
Okay.
And then each match is a new person.
Okay.
So it really is a journey, because after each match, we have a conversation about how it went. And they submit feedback on the date. So if it's like a yes match, that means they both enjoyed the date, want to see each other again. So I automatically do a phone number exchange, and then any subsequent dates are up to them with that person.
Makes sense.
In the meantime, I'm still screening, looking for other people for them.
Right, because maybe it was good. The first one was good, the second one's good, and the third one, oh, no. Or that could be the one.
I mean, by the time people come to us, they're really, most of the time they're looking for their life partners.
Yeah, that
because they're willing to invest in the service and trust a matchmaker. That's a really big thing. I always tell clients how courageous they are, and I'm just like, wow, because it's blind dating and you're trusting me. This is not, what's difficult in the U.S. is that we're not a super communal kind of society. It's not like we know everyone's families, and I'm not interviewing their families, their friends, their local groups they're a part of. So really, if they come to me, we're just getting to know each other. So it's a lot of trust to put in me to find someone for them. So it's really a process. Like after each date, we talk about it, what worked, what didn't. A lot of times, if it's not a fit, it's people just say they didn't feel chemistry.
I mean,
that's most of what doesn't work. Usually, the people we get high. I don't want to put a value on people, but we get people who are serious about wanting to be in a relationship, because if you're in a blind dating service already, you're surrendering a lot of your...
Yeah, I'm only really getting like all these dudes who just want to hook up, where they say they want to really, because your service would eliminate the hookups pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people do hook up.
I'm sure,
but you wouldn't invest all that just to hook up. No, you're really looking for your part.
Swipe on Tinder, you've got a hookup for free. I mean, you're not going to spend, I don't know how much your service costs, but you're serious about actually finding someone. And I think it's hard out there, because I have some wonderful friends, and guys have shown interest in me in the past, and I think they're just wonderful people, and I would totally recommend them to my friends, but there was just no spark for me. And I appreciate when when a guy comes to me and says something, and that they can take that let down, that I'm sorry, I don't have the feelings for you, and then, which isn't fair to either of us. Because I have tried dating before, because I thought someone was a nice person. I felt, well, maybe it'll come later. That was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because that ended up just hurting both of us. So I try not to hurt people. And most people, will take it very well if you just go to them and go, hey, I'm interested in you. Thanks, you're a wonderful person. Let's be friends. I mean, there's an occasional people who don't take that well. But then, if they can't take that well, then and they can't respect your feelings, then you don't want them around anyway. So
that's true.
I can see where your service would come in, because, okay, well, I know all these wonderful people, and then I know these jerks over here, but obviously none of them are in my circles. Are so small. I can only do so much because I'm working here, or especially people I would think of major careers that keep them busy. So like doctors and
those are our clients.
Lawyers.
Most of them have major careers. Yeah.
I figured. I figured.
Yeah.
It's they don't have time to go out and hang out, and they have to, they've got rounds on the weekends, or they're trying to prepare for seeing a judge on Monday, so they've got to get all their stuff done on the weekend. They don't have time to go out, or they might have time to go out but not really meet anyone out.
Well, how many places do you actually frequent in a given week? I know I met you through dance, so we share a dance community, but it's pretty much the same. We see the same people.
Yes, in general.
Right? Yeah. And different, cities really have different demographics that affect dating. Like Cleveland, I don't know that we have a lot of like transient people so much. Other cities, more cosmopolitan cities or coastal cities, you have a bit more of an exchange of like just new people coming in. So you can see that in our database. Like you see how the pool is different in different places. And Cleveland, we have a lot of people born and raised here, and so it's really different. It can be challenging, and people here marry early. So so it's just different. It's really interesting to see how demographics definitely affect things.
Yes.
And I do feel like you can meet someone anywhere, but I do feel like there are places that maybe for certain people might align better with their values and increase the chances of meeting more like-minded people that would be a good fit for them.
And again, where your service would come in handy.
Yeah. Well, because we can cast a broad net. Like you or someone could join our service, and then you could say, hey, I'm considering moving to, I don't know, like South Carolina.
Oh, I would totally consider moving to South Carolina, yes.
Yeah, so I could look for people in South Carolina. That's kind of harder to do if it's, just you and your life is here. So it does allow us to look beyond the streets you normally frequent. Like, I mean, I go to the same places, the same neighborhoods in Cleveland. So what are the chances? And we go out. We like to dance. So we're around, we're out. But some people don't like to go out.
Some people want to,
like,
they don't know how to really, they can have a good conversation like this, but they don't really know how to socialize. They're not a social butterfly.
Right, which is hard. And with COVID, that affected everything too. That actually, I think, increased.
Right.
Yeah, so I forgot what I was saying. We can cut that out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be cut out. You can drink your water.
Okay.
No, like I've been.
It's okay. You can be drinking and talking while we're recording. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and like I think sometimes maybe even if you looked an hour outside of where you live, maybe that's something you've never considered before.
Exactly.
An hour's not like changing your entire life to move to an entire different state or different area or leave your family, and that could even be something you would help with. So.
We try to stretch people with that a little bit too. Like if you knew your person only lived an hour away, would you be open to it? Because some people get really comfortable. They just want to.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't live in Cleveland. I always say I'm from Cleveland, but I live an hour south.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And when people find that out, they're like, oh my gosh, you drive an hour? I've been coming for work. I've been coming up like 6 days a week to Cleveland. And it is a lot of driving, but they're like, oh my gosh, an hour is so far. No, it's not. I just throw an audiobook on or I listen to music or I sing in the car and I enjoy my time either dancing or I'm working. And if it's a short thing, I meet up with friends afterwards in Cleveland because I've made a lot of friends up here. So an hour's not that far.
Right. No, it's good to keep an open mind. Like people who are more open-minded about those things have more. You're just increasing your likelihood of meeting someone. So how some people I feel like stay at home and they're wondering why they're not meeting people.
That's true.
It seems like a really basic thing.
Yeah, or they stay at home, they want to meet, but they're too scared. They don't know how, again, where you'd come in and...
Yeah, there's a lot of social anxiety around dating, and I get that, but especially blind dating. That's something that not everybody is up for.
No,
and I get that.
Like a lot of people don't necessarily know how to interact with the opposite gender, and I'm just using that as an example because I would assume does your service provide for LGBTQ as well?
Everyone,
so I use the heterosexual as an example because I am, and it's just easy for me to relate to. But with respect to LGBTQ as well, that it's not always easy to talk to someone that you are attracted to as well.
So in general, I think that's a challenge for a lot of people.
Or maybe, especially in certain communities, I know that the percentage is a lot smaller.
Right.
The LGBTQ would be a minority, and if you want to meet other people who are like-minded or comfortable dating somebody who's LGBTQ plus, then you might need assistance, and that would be another thing that would be really good for people. So.
It's great. It's great to connect. It's great to connect people who wouldn't otherwise meet.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, especially as we get older, like we don't have the same, it's not like we're going to school with people. We don't see all these people every day that are potential matches necessarily.
And a lot of schools online now.
Yeah, and we work from home. So that's something that's...
And
it's a challenge. It's a challenge to dating, or you really have to, you have to put yourself out there very intentionally to meet. People.
Yes, I think so. And it's not easy because it's almost like a stage fright, like getting in front of the camera or speaking publicly. For me, the hard thing is singing publicly. But just because, it's like that's my hard issue. To another person, just saying hi to somebody they find attractive is they're singing in public. So it's different levels of comfort for everyone.
Yeah.
But before we close everything out tonight, do you have any tips, any advice, anything you wanted to share?
I think just being open, just coming with an open mind and really having a long list of things it's a starting point, but stretching, just allowing yourself to really meet someone and to be ready is, I feel like that's really helpful.
Come without expectations.
Yeah.
Don't think.
And look at it as I mean, it's so cheesy, but if you look at it as a kind of journey, like a growth journey, and looking at the experiences, wanting, what can I learn from this person? What can I learn about myself? I feel like that's always a great place to
and share
start.
too. Like, what can I share that they see it? Because sometimes, sharing something that you like with someone who's never tried it before is fun. And I'm talking about like little things. Recently, I had dinner with a friend, and they had never had mead before.
Okay,
and I like mead, and so I brought some, and they liked it. So that was a really nice experience to share something that I enjoyed, that to make somebody else have an enjoyable experience as well.
Novelty. I think novelty helps, and also doing things in your own life that excite you. Because if you're kind of feeling like your life is boring, then what are you bringing to someone else? So really just kind of engaging with what makes you happy is really
willing
helpful.
to try something new.
And
maybe
just something new.
Maybe just an inch outside of your comfort zone. Not far, not like over here, but just over here.
Exactly.
So basically,
going on a blind date can be that can be outside of your comfort zone.
So basically, you kind of make the fairy tale happen, but it's up to them for them to write their happy endings.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it is.
Well, thank you, Anita, for being my guest today. I'll have your website available, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So that if people were interested, that they could go ahead and contact your company for services like that if they need it. And I appreciate having you.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to be looking for it. And I do want to say thank you again to See Senor Restaurant for sponsoring us and allowing us tonight to use their space. Also to Besame Cosmetics, use my code ALANA, ALANNA, for 25% off your order. And don't forget to like, subscribe, all the fun stuff. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So I'll share links for you too. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.